Hi everyone and welcome to this video. Hopefully you're all safe wherever you're watching this from. I know that's pretty much been like my introductory line, but in light of recent developments with regards to the coronavirus and the rapid increase in cases, I think that definitely we just need to be walking on the side of caution a lot more and just making sure that we are being proactive and doing everything that we can do to be safe, as safe as possible. Okay, so hoping that you are safe and that you are being responsible wherever you are, and hoping that the studies are on track as well. I know that it's been a bit of a staggered type of approach so far. I know it's not very easy with regards to getting into a proper study pattern or a rhythm, and that makes sense considering the fact that a lot is up in the air with regards to where the academic year is. A lot of, and by that I mean that some people or some students are not sure as to whether to continue. Some students have deregistered. I have heard about that. So yeah, it's a difficult one, especially then when it comes to online assessments. A lot of students not being used to that, and even if you are able to do it, it's still a bit of an adjustment, and that's if you are able to do it. Some students don't have the luxury of that, be it saving the relevant computer software and hardware available, or whether it comes down to actually having a decent working internet connection. So there's a lot of things that are quite up in the air right now, and you guys are really just going to have to be as patient as you can possibly be. But yeah, we will get through this, but you guys just gotta find a way to keep the motivation up. And from our side, obviously we're doing everything that we can to make sure that we can bring some sort of academic support to you guys wherever you are, so that you're not sitting stranded wherever you are, and that you're not sitting in a position where now you're not sure what to do academically, you don't have access to any resources, or you feel isolated and cut off. That's definitely not what you want to feel like as a student, especially at a time like this. So we're definitely reaching out to as many of you as we can, and I'm really hoping that it's making a difference. We've received so much of positive feedback that it's actually really been quite a motivation to continue doing these videos and to actually keep on improving on these. Obviously we haven't really been able to get to our offices as much as we'd like to have, and that does cause a bit of issues, but you got to deal with or make do with what you have, right? And that's sort of what we're trying to do on our side as well. But please just let us know if there is any other types of videos, any other types of content that can actually help you guys, because you guys definitely need the assistance, and we are definitely willing to provide that assistance for you guys as well. Okay, so looking at today's topic, we're looking at product costing. Now this isn't going to be a super in-depth video. We're trying to limit the video duration to about 10 to 15 minutes, so this isn't going to be a super long video, right? And it's on product costing, which isn't a very difficult topic to initially grasp, but it does require a lot of practice. So a lot of students keep on asking, because when you get to this section in management accounting, it's very, very, very broad. And when you think about the types of products that you have, there's literally no limits to the amount of products which can be produced in an industry. I mean, it's very, it's very open-ended, right? As products evolve, new types of products can be, coming out. Some people start combining products and that type of thing. But I mean, it's constantly changing. There's just always a different type of product, and it's so broad. Whether you look at cell phones, whether you look at furniture, whether you look at something like hardware or paint or anything, it's just so broad. And apart from the types of products being broad, another thing that really, really changes a lot is, sometimes the factors of production. So you're looking at your labor costs, you're looking at your materials. Sometimes these get changed for others, alternatives, which really, when it comes to cost containment, those always get looked at. So it's a rapidly changing environment, and students often ask, okay, well then how do we approach this? How do we actually answer any question on product costing? And the thing is, before you can actually start answering the questions on product costing, you need to actually have a proper understanding regarding what it is, what it means or entails to actually start costing a product. Okay, so this sounds simple enough at first glance, but the thing is, as you're sitting there, try and answer that question on your own, right? What do you understand by the term product costing? I mean, and obviously don't get tempted to give the response that it's when you determine the cost of a product, okay? Because fair enough, that is ultimately what you end up doing, but it really goes a lot deeper than that, right? So that's something that you guys are gonna sort of discover as we go on with the section, but I want you guys to first get a proper grasp on the concepts, the terms, and the principles that actually go behind product costing, okay? Because that's going to be fundamental to you actually understanding this, and fundamental to you actually being able to determine the cost of a product accurately, right? And accuracy when it comes to this is very important, because at the end of the day, if your products are not costed in an accurate manner, that's going to affect your pricing, which is going to affect your profitability, which ultimately then has an impact on the sustainability of your company, right? So I think that's straightforward to see, but always try and make sure that you see these links in it, right? And when you answer questions, please answer it that way as well. That's something which we don't see. Please don't look at this in isolation, okay? The topic might be a standalone topic in isolation, but it's not something that you guys should study in isolation and look at product costing as only the, determining the cost of a product, and that's about it. It has a lot of deeper implications for an industry, okay? Right, so moving on, I always like to start with a motivational quote, and I say that you can either experience the pain of discipline or the pain of regret. The choice is yours. Okay, so I don't know who actually gave this quote, but it's another favorite quote of mine, right? So it's actually an unknown, I don't know what the name of the person who actually provided this quote is, but it's a very profound one, and this is something which I think is very applicable right now, because I know a lot of you guys are struggling to get into a groove to study, and that's normal. But at the end of the day, you just need to sort of get back on track. I know test 2 went very well for you guys, and I'm thrilled about it, but you guys need to make sure that you are on track and that you don't let your foot off the pedal, because the thing is that to regain that momentum isn't that easy. So once you have that momentum, you need to really make the most of it. Okay, so it's difficult, I know, because to really get up and to force yourself to start studying, especially when it's winter and it's cold out, and I know, I mean, we've all been down that route, trust me. But if you don't do it and you end up failing, right, what's going to happen, right? That's going to hurt, right? You're going to have to study for the exam anyway, so that effort's going to be there. And so all of the effort that you've put in so far will go for a waste. It'll be amounting to nothing. And then come next year, you're still going to have to do all of this. So if it's uncomfortable to do it now, I promise you it's only going to be more uncomfortable to do it next year. So rather do it now so that you don't have to do it again. Okay, I know it's easier said than done, but you'd rather just do it now and get it out of the way, and then it's over and it's done, and it's done. I know it's easy to say that, but you just got to force yourself. You just got to make sure that you keep disciplined, and then you'll see the results will come, and the rewards will come. Okay. Okay, looking at our specific outcomes, 3 main ones which we would like to actually focus on. And the first one is how to allocate your production costs to a product or service. Second one is how to determine the cost of production of a product or service. So these two are kind of linked, but you'll see the difference in this as we go on, right? And the last one is to understand the allocation of production overheads to a product or service. And this is typically the trickiest part. It's the one area which students struggle with a lot. It is the one area in which a lot of focus gets put on during examinations, and in other assessments. So it's definitely an area which we will be spending a lot of time on. Maybe not in this particular video, but definitely a section which I think a lot of students, and even maybe in practice, the difficulty lies more in doing this correctly and accurately. Okay, it's not difficult once you've actually gotten into it and you understand how to go about it, but until such time, it does get a bit complicated to do it accurately. You need to really know a lot about what factors and what figures are actually going into these amounts and how to allocate them in the most accurate way that you can. Okay. But anyway, moving on. So you would have heard about this statement before, and if you haven't, well then consider this your introduction to it. But when you are determining the cost of a product or a service, but typically it would be a product, an entity would make use of what is referred to as a production cost statement, right? So I've got a very simplistic format of one here, right? And this is what you will be using in your tests and your examinations, or pretty much any of your assessments where you are required to determine the cost of a product or a service. Right, so if you look at the first heading, we've got our direct materials, and underneath it we've got our various types of direct materials. So if you think about it, I mean, a product can have, and typically will have, more than one type of direct material that goes in. Now you can show this as a full total and just say direct materials and then have the sum of direct material A and B included there, so it will just be like one line item. I don't recommend that because it's very easy to get confused and it's difficult to keep track of where your costs are and what's driving your costs, and it's it becomes a mess. So this format is what I prefer. So I've just got direct material A and B. If there was direct material C as well, then you'll put direct material C, and so forth and so on, right? The same thing with direct labor. Remember, with direct labor, there can be various grades of labor that an organization might have. So they might have things like skilled, semi-skilled, that type of thing going on. So you want to show these costs separately. It's easier just to keep track. It's much more comprehensive. It's a lot more transparent as well when it comes to actually representing your costs. And I think it's a very neat and easy to follow way of actually setting out your costs, right? You're not required to specifically stick to this format, but I would highly recommend it. And then the last one is our production overheads, right? Now, you can get various different types. So when you have a single overhead recovery rate, which is this most simplistic way, then you're only going to have this one line item which says production overheads, and it'll just be your overhead per item, right? We will show you how this calculation gets done, but you can get more than one overhead recovery rate, and that'll be when you're using things like your departmental rates, or you're using activity-based costing, right? But we'll get to that later on. For now, if you can focus on your direct materials and your direct labor, and you can get these correct, getting most of the work done. And that's what you need to try and do in the exam. You need to try and score marks. Okay, so that's the important part, right? So as I said here with the production cost statement, right, direct materials are those materials that can be allocated directly to the cost of the product or the service, and they typically vary in direct relation to the volume of production. Okay, so this is easy enough to understand. If we have a table, for example, and it's made out of wood, then the wood would be a direct material. So if we produce one table, we're going to have a certain quantity of wood. If we produce two, typically it's going to be twice as much. If we produce 10, it's going to be 10 times as much, and so forth and so on. And if you look at direct labor, it's not that different to direct material in principle. It just comes down to, remember, when we're looking at the different grades of labor. So the area that people get confused is how do you determine whether this is direct labor or not direct labor, right? And quite simply, it's just going to be looking at whether it's a wage earner, whether it's a factory worker specifically used, getting paid per product almost, essentially. Okay, so that's one way of really looking at it. Okay, and then the last thing there is our overheads, and as you can see, there's three methods which are commonly used. And